But this video is really made for, in fact, I'm going to dedicate it to all the sisters out there who have narcissistic parents. It's not easy to maintain these relationships. Sister relationships can be very tenuous at best. Anyway, they can be competitive and difficult. They can also be truly wonderful. The sister bond is such a powerful bond. And in narcissistic family systems, they can get very, very complicated. So I'm going to talk a bit about how the narcissistic parent creates a lot of difficulties among sisters. And I'm going to talk too about clients that I've had over the years and how I've helped them to create better relationships with themselves and then also with their sisters so that they could heal this whole issue within their own lives. And they've had such great results. So I just wanted to share some of that with you. I'm Dr. Meg Haworth, and I'm a transpersonal psychologist, a holistic nutritional chef, and a best-selling author of Get Well Now, Healing Yourself with Food and the Power of the Mind. And I help ACONs, adult children of narcissists, go from wounded ACON to healing icon. And what's an icon? An icon is someone who's independent, confident, original, and naturally you, because the narcissistic parent stamps all of those things out in you. So this subject today, as I said, is really near and dear to me, and it's also very complex. So maybe you want to get a pen and some paper and take some notes because I'm going to be talking a bit about how the parent who is a narcissist will destroy sister relationships and some things that you can do about that. So one primary way that narcissistic parents destroy this relationship between the sisters is that they pit them against each other. And this can start when you're very, very young. And they may start by using narratives of one story is told to one sister and another story is told to another sister, and they're completely opposite stories. So basically, the narcissistic parent may just go and trash one sister to the other sister, just say horrible things about them, make up things that aren't actually true. And they're going to bank on you not checking it out with them because they've been controlling you into silence. And that's a big part of the deal when you grow up in a narcissistic family system. So basically, now this one sister has this idea that you said or did something horrible, and it's so horrible you don't even want to check it out with her, and you're silenced, so you don't. So you believe the narcissistic parent. They're so good at manipulation that you will believe a lot of what they say until you don't, until you start to uncover all of this stuff that we're talking about today. You start to uncover their lies. But still, it's a mind game all the way through. Telling yourself the truth about your narcissistic parent, that's a mind game in and of itself. So when they pit you against one another, they basically will get you to stop talking to each other. And this is by design. It's so much easier to control people when they're being manipulated and they're being silenced than it is if you guys have it all out in the open. And this is something that doesn't happen in a narcissistic family system. You don't see people talking through things. If there are arguments, there's no resolution to the argument. There's shutdown, there's walk away, there's so many manipulative games going on that there's not going to be resolution. So nobody learns how to do this in a narcissistic family. So you have to, as an ACON, you have to figure out how to resolve conflict and how to heal, how to get better from all of this. So that's one of the things that the narcissistic parent does is they pit you against your sister, and it can create some terrible sibling rivalry, which is already a thing. It's just sort of a natural thing that happens with a lot of siblings anyway. And this just takes it up many notches. So another thing that narcissistic parents do with their daughters is they teach jealousy and competition as a normal way of thinking, a normal way of being. So one of the primary emotions that drives the narcissistic parent is jealousy. is envy. So that automatically puts people in competition with each other. So in a narcissistic family system with girls in the mix, girls are often encouraged to be competitive with each other, especially when it comes to their looks, competitive for the guy in the room. So that jealousy, that catty competition thing that goes on with a lot of women, it's enculturated in us, but when it's in the narcissistic family home, it's that much worse. So they nurture jealousy and competition in their kids. And so one of the kids, one of the daughters might have gotten the memo of jealousy and competition, and that, was really spinning in their head. That's something that they're ruminating over. Whereas another one of the daughters maybe didn't get that memo at all. In fact, they're not jealous, they're not competitive. Or they heal the jealousy and the competitive nature that they picked up from the narcissist. And so what happens is when the one who got the memo on jealousy and really has that perception and sees through the eyes of jealousy and envy, and the one who doesn't, anything that goes on between those two, the one that does see it this way assumes that the other sister sees jealousy and competition everywhere, when the other sister doesn't. But she can't even convince the jealous and competitive sister who got that memo. She can't even convince her for a second that that's not how she thinks. So you can get very fixed in your thinking because there's so much rigidity with a narcissistic parent. So you may pick up on some of that rigidity. So one of the things that you can do is really be honest with yourself about, am I jealous? Am I competitive? Am I making things worse between me and my sister because of the way that I'm viewing her? Because I view her differently than I view, say, my friends or other people's sisters or other people's relationships. Inside of the narcissistic family system, it can get very dicey. It can get very, very sick. It can get very codependent. It can get very mean and catty between the sisters because it's been nurtured by that narcissistic parent. So look at yourself, look at jealousy, look at competition, and make changes within yourself. You can make changes by looking at, do I even believe that putting my energy into jealousy and competition towards my own sister is something that's even remotely productive? I can assure you it's not productive. It's not helpful for you, and it's not helpful for your sister either. So you can do things in yourself to heal that inner relationship with jealousy and competition and envy. And then that will start to transfer to your relationship with your sister. And hopefully one day you may even be able to have a conversation with them about it as they do their own healing work too, because that's going to be really important for them. They may not be able to, and you're going to see that as you get better and better, you'll see more and more clearly what you can and can't do with your narcissistic sister, or she may or may not be narcissistic, but with your sister who came from this kind of family system. Okay, a third thing that narcissistic parents do, and this is a really big one, is because they're treating their children so vastly different, because the narcissistic parent has put the kids into specific roles. There's the golden child, the one who gets the attention, the one who gets the accolades. This is the one that is doing the thing that's approved by the narcissistic parent. And so they'll tend to give them more money, they'll give them more opportunities, they'll pay for their education, and they may not pay for the education of the scapegoat because they don't approve of what they're doing, the scapegoat or the invisible child. So this sets up a huge competitive issue between the sisters. And what happens is the sisters will then think that this unequal treatment is something they should be mad at the sister for. It is not something you should be mad at your sister for. It's something you should be very mad at your narcissistic parent for. But so your narcissistic parent has trained you to believe that they're not to blame for anything, and they're never going to take responsibility. So why would you even put the onus on them? I mean, you could, but they're never going to do anything about it, and you know that. So you're putting all of that blame shifting onto your sister, or your sister's putting all that blame shifting onto you, when it was the narcissistic parent who did the whole thing, who created that whole situation, again, pitting you against your own sister and making it look like you're the problem when in fact they were the problem all along. And they're just sitting there watching this whole thing. Like, in many cases, the narcissistic parent actually enjoys watching their children suffer with one another because, again, it keeps them in the place where it's easier for them to be controlled by the narcissistic parent. So it is heavy. It is so heavy. Again, leads into the jealousy and the competition and all of that. And so if you're empathic and sensitive and you're seeing this massive unequal treatment, you're going to think it's not fair because it really isn't. It's not okay when your parent gives so much to one daughter and not to the other one. It's not okay when one gets a ton of attention and accolades when they're not even necessarily deserving of it. It can be extremely confusing for the child who is extremely sensitive, who's empathic, who's the scapegoat, and who is also maybe the enabler or the invisible child. It can be so confusing for them. But this constant state of confusion is something that the narcissist loves. They thrive on this confusion, and then they thrive on you being confused and you creating this situation with your sister. So what you may end up doing with your sister is you may end up playing out the dynamics of your narcissistic parent and your non-narcissistic parent with each other, totally unconsciously. You don't even know that you're doing it. So if you're watching a lot of jealousy and competition between your mom and dad, and one is a narcissist and the other one is not, and the one that isn't a narcissist is enabling the narcissistic parent to keep doing what they're doing because they're terrified. They feel like there's no other recourse for them, because if they don't comply with the rigidity and the rules of the controlling narcissistic rageaholic parent, they're going to end up with consequences that you can't even imagine as the child. They're bad enough for you, you know that. But when you're the mate of the narcissist, it's even worse because behind those closed doors, you're all behind closed doors together, but then you get the narcissistic parent behind closed doors with the other parent. It's even worse for them in many ways that you would never know about because that person is also silenced. They cannot say what's actually happening, and they're not going to. And they know that. They basically bank on your silence. And so one of the things you can do for yourself is start to talk about this stuff. You've got to work through this stuff with a professional who can help you work through this stuff. Like videos are going to help you a lot. Videos like this one, they're going to help you a lot because you're going to be able to see yourself inside of these videos, and people like me that are talking about this, professionals that are helping people through this, can help you in many ways in these videos. But you've got to understand that this is only step one. That step two is for you to get the help that you need for yourself. And there's so much help out there for you. As soon as you make that decision, a magical thing happens. Everything you need comes your way to help you heal. As soon as you fully make that decision, this is the step one that I always talk about in my steps to overcoming the effects of victimization. That step one is to make a decision. And I mean a full body decision that I'm going to overcome this thing. And when you do that, everything you need shows up for you. The money shows up for you, free opportunities, people that will help you pay for things, grants. I have clients who've gotten grants from the county that they live in for caregiving, for being adult children caregivers of their narcissistic parent, and so then they use that grant money to work with professionals like myself. So just know there's lots and lots of avenues out there to help you get the help that you need. It's very, very important. And so as for you and your sister and your relationship with your sister, Your relationship with yourself is going to be very, very important. You've probably become extremely codependent with your sister to the point where you focus on them a lot, and you don't even realize how much you are focusing on your sister. And so when you focus on your sister in this regard, it takes the focus off of you. So focusing on yourself, learning to help heal yourself is going to be the most important thing that you can do for you. This is the most valuable thing you will ever do for you. And it's through that inner relationship, through you like getting in contact with your own identity, getting in contact with your self-expression. You may have squashed your own self-expression so that your sister could step forward, especially if that sister's the golden child, because you don't want to usurp them either. Because if you do, there's consequences to be paid. Your narcissistic parent taught you that. So there are so many layers and levels in this relationship with your narcissistic parent and with your sisters if you come from a narcissistic family system. Now, you might have a sister who is clearly narcissistic. She may actually have the disorder, and that's going to be a double whammy. It's going to be even harder. One thing you need to stop doing is sharing your personal information with that sister. That's really, really important. Because they're using that information against you. They're using that information to trash you to other people. And this is something that they're doing in the background. They learned it from their narcissistic parent. You watched it. You still watch it going on now. And they were repeating the pattern. Now, that sister may or may not be able to change that, but it's up to that sister to be able to do the work that it takes to be able to change that particular dynamic. So that, again, is really up to them. So another way that a narcissistic parent gets the sisters against each other is that they get you to take sides with the narcissistic parent. Narcissistic parents are really good at manipulating. They're master manipulators. They're really good at making you think that something that's actually completely unacceptable and you know it is acceptable. They're really good at talking you into something that's even amoral or illegal as being acceptable. That's part of what they do. It's part of their charm and how they use their manipulative skills. And so what they may be doing is they want you to take sides with the narcissistic parent. And again, they may pit you against your sister by being told a story, or they tell a story where they get everybody against the one sister. That story is probably not true, or maybe a little bit true, but they're so good at wrangling the sisters together or other siblings. It could be male siblings too, but again, for the purpose of this video, we're talking about narcissistic sister relationships. So basically, this happens a lot with the scapegoat, where they're trying to get everybody against the one person in the family. It's something that happens a lot in narcissistic family systems. So if you're seeing yourself in this video and you have a relationship with your sister that you know is coming down from your narcissistic parent, and that relationship has gotten to be really difficult or challenging, and you may be heartbroken most of the time because it's not the sister relationship you'd always wished you would have or hoped you could have, and you don't know how to get there, then get help. I have a great course that I created. It's called Healing the 5 Primary Wounds of Parental Narcissistic Abuse. It's an on-demand online course you can sign up for today. It has 2 very affordable payment options that you can take, and they're in the links below in the comments and in the description. And so there's that. And you can also work with me one-on-one. If you're interested in that, then book a free call with me, a free consultation to see if we might be a good fit to work with each other. What I do is very different. The course is very different than typical narcissistic abuse courses because it's not all about tactics. And if you do this, do that, you cannot carry out a tactic if you are full of anxiety and fear and sadness and shame and guilt. You will freeze when you try to carry out that tactic in real time. In order to be able to do that, you need to be able to release the mental, emotional thoughts, feelings, and core negative beliefs that you're holding in your energy system and thus your body that are making you sick over time. And that's what I help people do. This therapy that I do is rapid acting using my whole person integration technique. And if any of this sounds like fascinating and interesting to you, just book a free call with me and let's talk about it and see if we might be a good fit for each other. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already done so, please like the video if it's helped you today. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And thank you so much for watching. I'm so extremely grateful for you. I'm Dr. Meg Haworth, and I hope this information will help you get well now.